Welcome to the Sportsbiz Show. Today we have with us Sean Callanan, who is the founder of Geek, which connects sports fans and sponsors using technology. Geek is connected with millions of digital fans from across the world and has clients in the NBA, the AFL, and cricket, amongst others. Sean himself has hosted over 150 episodes with people from across the sports business industry on the Geek podcast, which is one of the leading digital platforms in the world. We chatted with Sean on growing one's sports media presence as a professional, a brand, and a team. Let's dive into it. Hi, Sean. Welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure having you. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Just to begin with, can you tell us a little bit about the conceptualization of Geek and the intention behind creating the platform?
Yeah, so I started Sports Geek many years ago now, so 12 years ago. Before Sports Geek, I was a geek, so I was a coder developer, but I was a frustrated sports fan and what sports teams and leagues were doing to better connect with fans, either via their websites, the emails they were sending, that kind of thing. And I thought I'd continue in my geek role doing that kind of work. But then a couple of platforms came along: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So the whole social media revolution, if you will, came on board, and I saw that as an opportunity for sports teams to better connect with their fans. And I started telling everyone they needed a sports geek. They needed someone to understand those platforms and what they could do. And yeah, that's sort of how the business started. And I was advising teams how to get on those platforms, how to build out their digital capabilities, and it's all grown from there.
Very interesting. Now, you've also, like you mentioned, worked across multiple teams and leagues, and not only in one country, but across countries, across continents.
Yep.
What are the biggest challenges that are facing those teams and leagues today, especially in the digital landscape where there's an attention deficiency?
Yeah, so there's a few challenges in the world of sport right now. Deficiency is one of them. Like, the attention is a commodity these days. Whether it's watching streaming services, listening to podcasts, watching movies potentially on a streaming service because we can't go into cinemas at the moment. But sport is in that space. And then I think obviously the last 12 months with COVID is really put a crunch on digital departments because there's been a lot more emphasis on what they do because they're trying to talk to all the digital fans because they're not in a stadium, which is something I've been talking about for 12 years to say, hey, we should be talking to all the digital fans. It only sort of started happening, really settling in at 2020. So the challenge is to do all the things they're asked to do with as few resources as they have. I don't think enough people realise how few people run the behind the scenes of sports teams and leagues. The brands, the team brands are very, very big, but they're vastly oversized the resources behind them. If you look at a big uh, uh, beverage brand or a big auto brand, like they've got big brands as well, and they are similar to the big sports brands, but they have so much more resources than a sports team. So in sport, it's always how do you get as much out of the resources, and how do you keep delivering for your fans? And that challenge is always there. I think it's just been stretched a little bit further due to COVID.
Mm. So, on that note, on that piece of challenge, has digital come to a point, especially for teams and leagues, where it's become sophisticated to the point where they funnel their fans into becoming better consumers or better fans for better campaign results? Or is it still the more traditional way of working? And keeping that in mind for the layman, in layman terms for the listeners, could you educate us about what funneling means?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm happy to talk funnels. Like I do believe, digital is a very much a large funnel. And if you're looking at digital, you're either in the reach component where you're trying to reach as many fans as possible in the widest part of the funnel. Then you start engaging those fans, so people know about you, but then they start engaging, and what that might look like might be double clicking on an Instagram post, or liking a tweet, or replying or commenting on a Facebook post. So you're starting to engage, and you become closer, and the algorithms then help that. If you're engaging with content, you'll see more of that content. So then the challenge, the next part of the funnel is the most challenging point, is the conversion part. So it's like, how do we get someone who's liking our posts, retweeting us, using our hashtags, double tapping photos, how do we get them to convert? And so what does converting mean? Converting might mean capturing their data and getting in our database so we can start a meaningful conversation off these platforms, right? So we're not always beholden to Mr. Zuckerberg or Mr. Google to when we can talk to them. So it could just be a data transfer to say, oh, now I've got your data, but it could be a monetary one. It could be, oh, you bought a ticket, or you bought a membership, or you bought a season ticket. And so that's, again, that becomes digital, becoming a revenue driver. So that funnel is driving to money. And so then you end up that point of, we've now got season ticket holders and ticket buyers and merchandise buyers. And so now they're effectively customers. I mean, we don't call them customers too much in sports because we like to call them fans all the time, but they are, paying fans. Then the last part of the funnel, which is sometimes neglected, is retaining them, right? So to stop churn, like it's great to go and put all this effort in the wide funnel and get them engaged and get them to a game, but you have to do it every week or you have to do it every year. So the retaining piece, like the focus on the retaining, in my part of the world, we have a lot of memberships, and Collingwood is the team that I'm a fan of and I'm a member of. Like they have 70,000 members, but it's far better for them to make sure that those 70,000 members stay on board year to year than always be focused on making sure to get the next people in. So that retain piece of the funnel is super important, and digital can play a role in all of those parts. So it's really that's where digital has to have that mindset of, I'm putting out this post on socials. Like I'm always saying, what's the intention? What do you want them to do? Where are they in the funnel? So some of the content might be, let's make everyone know about us, and that's at that reach part. But then you'll share a photo and it might be in the locker room or whatever, and that's really for your core fans, and they're going to engage with that. And then you might do something for your season ticket holders, and it's really inside for them. And so it's a matter of understanding like where that content fits in the funnel to help move them along, and starts giving digital a bit more value than thank you for all those likes. Like you can start seeing that there's monetary value in what you're doing in the digital space.
Yeah, that makes sense. I heard you speak on another platform where you said the NBA is the leader on the digital front for sports.
Yep.
What do you think makes the NBA's presence on digital so good?
So I think it's partly to do with, I think there's a bit of bias. Like I'm an NBA fan, so I like the product. I like NBA as a product. But from a digital point of view, and if I take my NBA fan hat off, the way that they've structured their content deals and their traditional deals. So when I say traditional deals, like TV, which is the primary source of revenue for sport, TV will hand over a big bag of money to a sport and say, we are going to put your sport on these big screens. And so a lot of those contracts and lawyers put a lot of restrictions to protect that asset, which is understandable. If you've paid a lot of money to put a sports product on a screen, you want to protect as much as possible. What the NBA did is they started rather early to carve out, or at least have conversations with their TV partners to say, actually, if we put this content on digital, if we put this on Twitter, if we put this on Vine, right? Remember Vine? Vine was pretty much all basketball highlights, right? If we let the content breathe on these platforms, more people will share it, and if more people share it, more people will come back and watch the content on the TV. So Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, who was sort of driving a lot of those deals when he was 2IC to David Stern, he talks about social and digital being like snack size and appetizers. And so like little clips and vines and GIFs and highlights, he goes, more people watch that. And if I find out that Dame Lillard has hit a big three and I find that from my Twitter timeline, guess what I'm doing? I'm logging into NBA.com and firing up League Pass, or I'm flicking on ESPN to watch the end of the game. And so that's been their approach all along, which is why I think it's a really good one. Whereas other leagues have sort of taken the whack-a-mole approach, where they've said, "Oh, we don't want any highlights on all of these socials because our big TV partner said they don't want it." and it's to a point where like they were banning, in one case, the NFL was not letting NFL teams show highlights of their own team to a point where Scott Kegley at the Vikings, they were doing Lego Mation highlight plays of their plays on Twitter because they didn't have access to the rights, which is highly creative, but it's not what people want. They want to be able to see the highlights. So it is a bit of if we give it away for free, people will never pay for it. But it's like if more people see it, it grows the proper popularity, and then more people tune in. And I think the NBA's got that right.
Right. And also leads back to that point of funneling that you spoke about.
Completely. It's very much in that reach play. Like, let more people do it, and then like, oh, I do want to follow that game, or oh, I didn't realize LeBron's now at the Lakers. I will tune in. Those kind of things have an effect.
Right. But when we speak about channels specifically, there's so much going on. There's a multitude of ongoing developments. In the recent few months, due to COVID, the digital movement just got accelerated
Yep.
while it was always present. Teams started adapting to TikTok and other platforms, and now we have the advent of Clubhouse, which everybody's speaking about. Do you think there is a certain timeline where teams and leagues should start getting on the bandwagon and start adapting to these platforms, or before they lose out? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so it's a tough one because I remember the olden days of social media where we would just get one platform every year, and there wasn't very much. It was like, oh, we've got Facebook sorted, we've got Twitter sorted. Oh, this Instagram thing looks good, and it literally was each because everything was coming along was so good. It was like, oh, everything. Oh, we've got to be on. We've got to be on first. I remember, the Boston Celtics were one of the early teams on Instagram, and they had a lot of growth. And I like being an early adopter to platforms because you get to test the platform before you have lots and lots of fans. So if you make a mistake, no one knows about it. Whereas if you come in after there's millions and millions of fans there, it's like the pressure to get it right is tough. So, my advice over the last couple of years is for teams, get on TikTok, try to figure out what works. It's not exactly the same as Instagram, and it's not exactly the same as Facebook. It is different. It's creator led, not brand led, and so it takes a certain skill set. Like I've never said that I would be good at TikTok because I don't use it enough, and I don't play around with all the creativity. But the people who do know how to do it. So um, I think it is about playing around with it, finding what it fits. But then also back to my other point, there's also the problem of resourcing. And I think this is where potentially like Snapchat has been squeezed out of the sports mix. All right. So for a long time, for a while there, everyone was you can even go back into my archive. I said Snapchat's not worth it because it doesn't have viral and sharing. And then they added it. And I'm like, okay, I was wrong then, but now I'm going to change my mind. You could use Snapchat and tell stories and tell it differently. And then Instagram goes and steals most of Snapchat's functionality, and no one's using it in sports anymore because it's like I'm duplicating the same content on these two very similar platforms. So it's a combination of do you have the resources and time and effort to be able to do something, and is it worth doing? I think the good thing about platforms like TikTok is because it's not chronological. It's not, hey, we've got to report game day, or it's a Thursday training, we've got to do something. You never get that feed, so you don't have that pressure of where's my Friday TikTok, you know, because it just is there, and it's all algorithm based. Clubhouse is a tough one for me to talk about because I'm Android, and people keep sending me invites, and I'm like, sorry, they don't let me in. I'm Team Android. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how a platform like that goes.
Right. Hopefully, you get to be on that soon. I know that they're releasing an
Oh,
Android version.
I'm just getting absolute FOMO. Everyone's going, "Oh, Sean, have you checked this out?" Like, of course I would have checked it out. But unfortunately, yeah, no, I haven't.
Hopefully soon. Well, on that note of resource allocation as well, you brought up a really interesting point. Do you believe teams and leagues can sort of, or are seeing a trend of moving their social digital initiatives in-house? And what does that result in for marketing agencies?
I think most social and digital like execution will stay in house. Because I think it's much better way to, I guess, capture the tone and the voice of the brand and the team. Um, what I do think is, the teams of 2019 will be a little bit will be bigger than teams of 2021. I think they'll be smaller. I think COVID has caused some stand downs and furloughs and the like. So there will be less resources. So where I think freelancers may be leveraged by sports might be on specific projects, like sponsor activations and those kind of things, where they go, we've sold this digital content series or this or something in specific, and they can bring in a videographer and those kind of resources to do it, or graphic artists. I think that's where we'll see the freelancers be used and agencies be used, because I think there's the other thing. If you're an agency and you're looking for talent, there's a lot of really good people available right now. So I think there will be some smart agencies that pick up some of the talented folk from teams, and effectively pitch some of their work back to the team. So I think there's going to be a shift over the next 12 to 18 months in that space.
Now, keeping COVID in mind, even though it is pretty short-lived, or should be short-lived rather, at least that's what we hope,
Yep.
it has brought in a lot of changes on the digital and social front. Now, what trends do you see for the future emerging out of the pandemic and into the future?
I think it'll still be changes, and I think COVID just accelerated it. I think it'll still be continuing changes to media contracts, and what they entail. So whether it's TV, those traditional contracts, trying to scoop and bring more of those digital assets back to them. I think that might happen. Or the other way is that sports will carve up their assets and assign them appropriately. So we might see a TV station get the TV contract and a social media company, buy the vertical video rights. And they're the only vertical video app that can show vertical video highlights.
Right.
And then they might say, oh, also we're going to have documentary rights. They're their own rights. We might see highlights as a right segment, right? So they might have to pay to have certain highlights, and those kind of things. So I think that's potentially where. So I think it'll still be, here's the big amount of money, but it's just been divvied up between more people because there's more players in the space. So I think there's going to be more in that space, and I think the documentary space is going to continue to heat up.
Very interesting. Okay. Lastly, what's next for you and Sports Geek, and if there's any piece of advice or any message you'd like to leave for the listeners?
Yes. So what's next? So my goal hasn't changed. I've stated in 2018, and then COVID came along and gave it a little bit of a bump. My goal is for digital to be the number one driver of revenue for sports by 2030. So I thought we're on track, and I think COVID gave it a nice bump because now there's more digital activations and more revenue coming through digital. So I think that's the main one, because I think the more that digital can prove there's money coming in, whether it's from sponsorship and activations, ticketing and membership, the easier it is for a CEO to say we need more people in our digital team. And so that's been my goal, to keep growing that part of the industry. The other part is effectively my side project, which is my esports team. So Gravitas is my League of Legends team. I'm hoping to grow them as a team and as a brand that gets some global recognition and hopefully gets some success on the world stage. So they're like my own little sports petri dish where I get to test all the things that I've been telling clients for 12 years. So hopefully Gravitas is onwards and upwards and helps sort of the same sort of growth that we've had in the sports space in the esports and gaming space. So they're the I guess the two things that I'm looking to work on in the near future.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for sharing your amazing insights and being so thoughtful and succinct with everything. Appreciate it. It was great having you. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for the best tips and trends in the world of sports business, wherever you listen to podcasts. Reach out over social media to connect or collaborate. Links will be in the bio. See you next time.